My first guest tonight is Crystal Romero, and we are going to talk tonight about what moral injury is and what that means. Master Sergeant retired Crystal Romero, her life and career encapsulate the embodiment of dedication, resilience, and advocacy, painting a portrait of a veteran who has seamlessly transitioned her formidable skills from military service to impactful civilian activism. Crystal's military career spanned over 16 years with the U.S. Army National Guard, primarily in a full-time capacity, where she embraced a multitude of roles and responsibilities that not only tested, but also honed her capabilities across various domains. Starting in logistics, Crystal's adaptability and commitment to excellence propelled her through 4 military occupational specialties, leading her to significant stints in public affairs as a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive specialist within the 64th Weapons of Mass Destruction Civil Support Team. Say that fast 3 times. Her remarkable contributions to operations, including the Space Shuttle Columbia recovery efforts and humanitarian relief for Hurricanes Katrina, Rita, and Ike, underscore her unwavering dedication to service and community. I would also like to say that Crystal has been an invaluable member of the GenVETS team, and since I've met her, our entire organization has benefited from all of the skills that you've just heard about, and she has personally introduced me and educated me as to what moral injury is and how it has impacted our veterans and military community. So I'd like to personally welcome you to the show and to thank you for everything that you have done for our organization and that you continue to do for the military and veteran communities today. So welcome.
Thank you. Hey,
So
real
I'd like
quick.
to
Wait, real
Okay,
quick.
go ahead.
It says that I was in the U.S. Navy. I was not in the U.S. Navy.
Where does this?
So,
Oh no, we have a bottom. Yes, no.
yeah. So
Crystal was actually
I
in
like the
the
Navy.
U.S. Army National Guard for New Mexico. So we'll get that corrected.
Okay, sorry. Just had to point that out.
So I guess the first question I have for you is, how would you define moral injury? This is a sort of an educational podcast to start with. I invited you on because I want this to sort of be the first of a series of podcasts that we do on moral injury and what it is and how it sort of spans across different areas of the spectrum in terms of what we're dealing with today, whether it's with PTSD, TBI, different injuries that occur within the veteran and military communities, because it has impacted in so many ways. And again, as I said to you, I didn't even know what it was, and that's after serving in 20 years of doing this until I met you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your question. I think your question was, how would I define moral injury?
Yes.
And moral injury occurs when someone feels that their deeply held values have been violated, either by someone that was like their command or their boss or maybe a friend. Your values have been violated, either by something they did or by something that's been done to you. It's not just about what happened, it's about how it made them question their integrity or the world around them. Addressing moral injury is really critical because it goes to the core of who we are and how we see ourselves in the world. When it's left unaddressed, it can lead to profound pain, isolation, and even hopelessness. And it's the way I describe it is it's a wound to your soul, and it's very different from PTSD. The symptoms are kind of the same, but it's entirely different.
How is it different?
PTSD is often tied to fear and a fight or flight response stemming from life-threatening events. Moral injury, on the other hand, is rooted in guilt. Understanding this distinction allows us to tailor treatment and support. Healing moral injury requires addressing those deep-seated feelings of betrayal and reconciling them with your own values. And in the in the military, it can happen when someone in a high stakes situation doesn't do the right thing and you witness that. Or you may have been the perpetrator. You may have had to carry out an order that did not go did not go in line with your beliefs. And it has different faces and it looks different for everybody. But it's betrayal trauma, really. And you basically have betrayed yourself is one way to look at it, but also you may have been betrayed by someone.
So, if I may ask, if you would go into this, what was your first experience with moral injury, and how did it shape your personal career path and life path? I know the answer, and it's something that I'd like to go into more in detail. It would probably take an entire show, if not two, which we will do at some point. But if you could sort of sum up a little bit.
I first encountered moral injury during my time in the military when I was advocating on behalf of soldiers who had turned to drugs and alcohol. And unfortunately, um, it was just like a retaliation situation. You know, I'd brought to the attention a safety issue and also reported a coworker for not doing their job. And because that my coworker was the daughter of a three-star general, retired general, and I didn't even, I mean, I didn't have a chance. She just, called her dad, and my life was made a living hell. And the resistance and the backlash that I faced really shook my belief in the system that I had dedicated my life to. And that moment really changed everything for me. And it was pretty devastating, but it also set me on a path of advocacy and healing. So, not just for myself, but for others navigating similar experiences.
So you are an example for me of how moral injury is something that can actually be something that you turn and use for a different purpose. I know that there are others that have turned toward you. I know because I've, for everybody, I have been in several different, I will say, public places. I've met with different leaders of different organizations, some very well respected leaders, doctors, who I will be speaking with, and I will, for whatever reason, Crystal's name will come up, and the response is, "Of course, I know Crystal Romero. Anybody who's in this space knows Crystal Romero." It's one of the she's who's of the who's who, and it. I don't know why it makes me laugh, because she's so tiny. If you can't see her like by looking at her right now, but the first time I met her, she's literally this little teeny peanut of a person, but she's so mighty in everything that she does. You do not mess with this woman. And so um, she is such a fierce advocate for the underdog. And, you know, uh, from how she grew up to how she joined the military and what it did for her. And then when she was within the military, the work that she, from every different MOS that she was in, but to the one that she ended up in, where she was an advocate for, um, victims of sexual assault and within encouraging drug treatment programs. When she saw that someone wasn't doing their job and safety was an issue for some of these people in the service, she took offense to it, and it became something where it wasn't a matter of whose daughter this was. She didn't care whose daughter it was. She was warned time and time and time again, do not mess with this family. Do not do, you don't. The quote I've read over and over is, "I'm not biting the hand that feeds me." And Crystal was like, "I don't care. This needs to be taken care of." And she didn't. And it affected the rest of her career. It's changed her life. And yet what strikes me is that even 12 years later, she has turned that around and is making it so that other people understand what has happened and what this is. And she's changed the lives of so many people. So I am just so in awe of her and what she's done and how tiny she is. My kids and I were just talking about the other night, we laugh about how adorable and tiny and scary you are at the same time. So, well, you've
That's funny.
also, I would like to go into some of the healing, the treatments that you have done. I can't personally pronounce them, so I'm not going to try, but there are a variety of ceremonies that you've experienced that have helped you process your moral injury. So I'd like you to pronounce them and not embarrass me.
Okay. And I have a funny story about one of my integration coaches too. So I've done a lot of healing exploration through with psychedelics. I almost couldn't pronounce it either. Specifically ayahuasca and psilocybin. I just recently came back from Jamaica where I did uh, 3 psilocybin ceremonies, and I came back kind of like a whole different person. And these ceremonies really have helped me to confront the pain that I had buried for so long. And they've allowed me to see myself with compassion and to process those feelings of guilt and shame and betrayal in the way that traditional therapies hadn't. And it's it wasn't easy. It was intense and raw, but it brought a sense of clarity and peace that I hadn't felt in years. And I I'm really grateful for the VA. I've done a lot of treatment. I've done EMDR. Um, I've done the transcranial magnetic stimulation. I've done cognitive processing therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, and I've had 3 stellate ganglion blocks with 2 of them were here, and one was in Maryland with Dr. Lynch. But psychedelics have been like the breakthrough for me. Um, I was really able to start to kind of forgive myself and to love myself again. I had kind of like I was in like this self-hatred mode. And you could tell it too, like when you talk to me. I mean, a lot of people that met me 4 years ago, um, this was when I first went back to my leadership and said, "Hey, you know what? Like, you really treated me really badly, and I want to talk about it because the things that I was put through is just it's not okay. It's not okay." And but I also was really, really angry because I had like a delayed realization, and I'm like, man, I was like really, really treated really badly. And when I went and I presented that to them, they kind of just looked at me like, what are you talking about? Like, you weren't treated badly. Just like completely gaslighting me, invalidating my experiences, like completely. And that made me really angry because
Well,
I thought enough time had passed where, we could actually sit down like a bunch of adults and have a conversation. And they were just like, no, that didn't happen. And that is, that's just kind of where it started, where the anger kind of just surfaced. And it really wasn't anger, Jen, it was grief, but it showed up as anger. And I've been to Peru twice. There's an organization called Heroic Hearts Project,
what's it
and
called?
Heroic Hearts Project.
Okay.
And it was founded by Army Ranger Jesse Gould. And it affords veterans to go and seek, uh, basically psychedelic assisted therapy out of the country. Unfortunately, we have to travel out of the country to have access to it. But I went and did 2 trips to Peru a year apart and to do ayahuasca. And I told you I had a funny story because you said that I'm like really tiny. My first integration coach, her name is Juliana Mercer. She's like amazing. I love her so much. Um, when I met her in Indiana for the first time, I had worked with her. She was my coach. We met on Zoom and stuff. This was like back in 2022. And, obviously I'd only seen her on screen. Well, in August of this year, I was in Indiana with you. and and I met her face to face, and the first thing she did when she saw me, she was like, "Oh my gosh, like you're so tiny." and I was like, "Man, I wish I could get like $10, not a dollar, $10 for every time someone said that, because I got bills to pay." But anyway, but my second integration coach was former Navy SEAL Diego Ugalde, and he's incredible too. I mean, both of them really, really helped me to prepare for the trip, prepare to do the psychedelics, to set intentions, to um, be very intentional with what I wanted to do and what I wanted to get out of it. And I'm like, I just want to stop being so pissed off all the time, because
So
my energy was,
what are the misconceptions about psychedelics? Do you think is it becoming something that's more acceptable? Is it something that you find resistance with? And how do you see this evolving? Because I hear it, the first time I heard it, I was like, "Wait, what?" And you've taught me a lot. Juliana Mercer, I've read a lot about. I respect her a lot. So explain a little bit more about what this is and how it's evolving as a treatment and becoming more acceptable.
well, I won't go into too much detail because I am not a subject matter expert in it. I can only tell you from my experience of working with it.
Mhm.
But
Well,
from
maybe we can have
like,
Juliana come on
yeah,
and yeah.
Juliana, Jesse, Diego. I mean, they are the experts, really. They're the ones that are leading the charge on this. But what I will say is this: is that we need veterans, everybody, not just veterans, needs access to these medicines. It's plant medicine. It shouldn't be, against the law to want to heal yourself. And I think, and it's not for everybody. I've learned a lot this last few years about, that it is not a one size fits all type treatment. If you have like a predisposition for like schizophrenia, or there's other medical things that can disqualify you from, like, you shouldn't
Mhm.
do it. It could be dangerous. But that's why having someone like guide you through the process, and having a proper medical screening is really, really important, because it prevents like any injuries, or anything bad from happening.
That's a
The
interesting, good point. Yes.
the
Okay.
medical screening process is very thorough, and um, that's why it's just really important to work with a professional with this. It's not something that, and it's not like, oh, I'm going to go do 4 grams and like just go rolling. A lot of people call it rolling. No, it's not. It's more than that. It's about setting intentions. The setting is everything. It's not you do a bunch of mushrooms and then go to a bonfire with your friends and everybody's drinking and partying and there's loud music. I mean, that sounds pretty fun, but that's not what it is. It's you're you're able to be in a safe space, and if you're safe and if you feel safe, you can really go inward with yourself and really address some of the root causes of what's hurting you. And as much as I would love to blame the military for, for all my trauma and for my moral injuries, for me it goes way farther back. I mean, to before I was even born, really. My mom came from a lot of trauma, and I mean, she was pregnant with me, obviously, so like I was just absorbing all that energy. And I came into this world, and it's been like, let's go ever since. But
I would like to
um,
hear what you had to say. You were grateful too. You said that you thanked VA for a lot of the help that you had received. Can you talk about that? Because we hear so
yeah.
much negativity about
Mhm.
the treatment, and we only have a couple minutes left. Can you explain what you mean? Because I think it's important to express that and the positives that you have experienced along this journey as well, because there have been these alternative treatments, but as well, what else? What have you found positive?
I've been very lucky. I've had the same doctor. I'm seen at the Women's uh, Veterans Clinic within the VA. It's kind of like its own little clinic on the second floor of my VA. But I've had the same doctor since 2014, and she is incredible. I mean, there's been times when I've gone in there, and the minute I just sit down and she's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" I'm just like, "Bleh," and I just completely have a complete breakdown in her office.
That's
And
amazing.
um, she's like, "All right, let's give you a minute." And there's even been times when she's like, "Do you just need a hug?" And I'm like,
Oh.
"Yes, please." Oh, and you
It
know
doesn't
what?
get better than that.
Sometimes
You
that's all
got
I
the women
need.
doctors like that, huh?
I know. Man, Dr. Kando, like, she needs a raise for real. She's really awesome. And but you know what? Anytime I've gone to her and just been honest with her, like, I am not doing well, doc. Like, I'm in a bad mood all the time. She's like, all right, well, let's see what we need to do to, to get you back on track. I mean, she's been great. The mental health clinic, the doctor that I did EMDR with, Dr. Galancy, she is amazing. I worked with her for 12 weeks, and when I first sat down with her, um, I was very angry. I was very angry, and by my 12th session, um, she said, "I want you to know something." She says, "When I first met you," she says, "I could feel your anger." She's like, "But I don't see that anymore when I look at you." And that, I guess, personal care,
Yes.
it just means the world to me.
Well,
So I'm
listen to
really,
you. I
really
mean, that's
grateful.
important here, VA, personal care from mental health
Yeah,
professionals, because there's not
yeah,
only a shortage nationwide, but there's a shortage within the VA healthcare system of mental health
yeah,
professionals. And,
yeah,
there are solutions that are being offered, and not all of them are necessarily being considered in the way that, the creative ways that we need to be thinking about getting them, whether it's looking at our medical schools and our programs, and looking to maybe, I don't know, recruit, offer scholarship programs to get people to come in. There are a lot of different ways we could be looking at mental health care professionals to come into the military service leadership. We need to be more creative about how we're doing that. And I love to hear the positive experience that you're expressing, because I don't think everyone realizes that is happening. I hear it so much, but I also hear so much of the negativity that I love hearing that you have that good experience, and people need to hear it, not just from me, but from someone who's actually gone through it as well. So
yeah.
well,
I
I want
think
to thank you so much. If you want to close with something, but we only have a couple of seconds. Did you want to say
okay.
something?
No, I was just gonna say that, you know what, it's not everybody has the same experiences. Everybody has different VAs and different experiences, but I think that the more honest you are with your doctors about really what's going on with you, um, the better off you'll be. That's all I can say.
That's 100%. That's 100%. As with anything, it's they only can do with what they have, with what they get. They can only work with that. And if you're not giving them everything, they're not going to be able to give back. So, but
Right.
I
Yeah.
do, and not everyone is.
Thanks for
Not
having me
everyone
on.
is. All right. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you again for joining, and we'll be coming back with more on moral injury and dealing with different aspects of